Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 12 of Building Cybersafe Communities with the TML Risk Pool. I am Ryan Burns, the Director of Cyber Services here at the Risk Pool. Joined today, of course, with Mike Bell, our Senior Cybersecurity Advisor on staff. Hi, Mike.
Glad to be here, Ryan.
And we've got a special guest today who's joining us. His name is Matthieu Chan Tsin. Thanks, Matthieu, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
All right. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matthieu and his background. He is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Resiliency Services at Cowbell, a leading provider of cyber insurance for small and medium-sized enterprises. Matthieu holds a PhD from Purdue University and is an expert in cybersecurity and intelligence. Before joining Cowbell, he held senior positions at AIG in the intelligence community and in academia. He has authored and contributed to academic and government reports on cyber and military topics, and Matthieu has lived and worked in over 11 countries. So I'm not sure I can even name 11 countries, to be honest with you. So Matthieu brings a ton of experience to not only his team, but to us and our members here at the Risk Pool. So we are super excited to have him as a special guest today. And for the sake of time, we're going to kick right in and start asking him some questions because he's the expert on the call today. So Matthieu, looking at the current threat landscape, what do you think is the most common way a bad actor gains unauthorized access to a network?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be talking to the TML Risk Pool today, especially because of my own background serving at federal government level. Anybody who works in municipalities or any kind of public service definitely has my attention, and I'm going to do my best to help everybody today. Cowbell is interesting from a cyber point of view because we do deal in insuring smaller entities. And what we see in smaller entities, as opposed to gigantic multi-corporations, is that they tend not to be targeted by specific attacks. The actors that compromise municipalities or emergency services or public services or schools, for example, tend to rely on known cheap methods, such as social engineering by sending emails, sending messages, sending phone messages, for example, or they exploit known vulnerabilities within technologies. Those are not actors who are going to create a specific attack package or specific attack chains. They know and use what's proven, what's cheap, and what is going to hit as many potential victims as possible.
Yeah.
Matthieu, cyber insurance is often viewed as something that responds after an incident. How do you define your role in helping members reduce risk and prepare before an incident happens?
No, thank you. And that's true. A lot of clients and policyholders view insurance solely as a risk transfer. But when we think about cyber insurance, we have to look at the way we behave as customers of others' insurance, for example, for cars. So because I have car insurance and automobile insurance, it doesn't mean that I don't do my maintenance on my car. It doesn't mean that I don't keep my tire pressure at the level where it needs to be, or that I forget to buckle up. And it's kind of the same thing with cyber. And that's an area where Cowbell especially aims to be different, because we've built in mitigation strategies within our cyber insurance packages, so that when somebody gets cyber coverage through Cowbell, they don't only get the cyber coverage in case a claims happen, but they also get services so that we can help assess the risk faster, and they get services to help either before a claim in order to mitigate the risk, and they get services afterwards after they get a claim as well. So they can get help mitigating risk. They can get help if something happens, so that they're not alone with the actors trying to deal with what happened. And what we found was when we build a strong relationship with the policyholders, when they let us become security partners, the prevention work has a tremendous impact on both the risk frequency, which declines, but also on the risk severity, which we found is a lot lower when policyholders have taken the right steps so that they've made the job hard on the actors.
Yeah,
And we
that's a great top. Let's unpack that a little bit. Cowbell offers several no-cost and optional services beyond cyber insurance policy itself. Could you briefly describe those services you feel would be of most benefit to our members?
Absolutely. Think at Cowbell kind of like a Costco. You're gonna your cyber coverage is your key into greater sets of services. So, for example, for policyholders, free services. Let's start with the threat intelligence. Threat intelligence, whether it is a cyber threat intel or kinetic threat intel or regional threat intel, is extremely expensive. You need collection capabilities, you need analysts, you need briefers, you need reporters. Cyber takes care of that at Cowbell. And the way the team works is we have a platform, and every policyholder has an account in the platform. And when policyholders go to that platform, they can access their account. In their account, Cowbell is going to tell the policyholder what is being targeted in terms of vulnerabilities or technologies. And we have confirmed every one of those notices, by the way. And sometimes we can do so weeks or months ahead of the CISA, the government entity that regulates cyber for government agencies. So our policyholders can go into the platform and be told that if they use, for example, technology A, the second we can confirm that attacks are being targeted at this technology, they're going to get a note in the platform that lets them know not only that attacks are ongoing, but also how to mitigate the risk, where to go get the updates, or what other technologies should be used to replace the one that's coming under attack. We also have cybersecurity awareness training, specifically done to be quick, to be monthly, to be entertaining of sorts, if you will. We also have phishing preventions. We have phishing campaigns as well, where a user, a master user, can decide to test the learning of their staff by simulating phishing attacks against users. We offer it for free for the first policy year, heavily discounted years after. This is especially useful because of the prevalent use of phishing and social engineering by the actor. One of our latest offering is vendor risk assessment. We see a lot of supply chain risk in cyber, and that's something that's been covered in the media as well. Vendor risk assessment is a byproduct of the research we do, not only for our policyholders, but also looking at the overall risk pool of US, UK, and Australian businesses. And what we've done is realizing that we have a lot of data that can be useful. So if I'm a municipality and I need to go and for example, I need to buy a new set of radios, or I need to change my internet provider, I can go into the platform and enter those entities I'm considering, and the VRA, vendor risk assessment, will let me know, is this a green light vendor, somebody Cowbell feels very strong about being safe, or is it a yellow vendor, somebody we may want to call and ask him some question, or is it a red vendor, somebody we want from a cyber point of view to avoid. That's available for free in the platform. One of the things I'm very proud about as well is our cybersecurity advisors. We have a whole team dedicated to our policyholders, kind of like you guys, virtual CISOs. Our policyholders can call unlimited amount of times, unlimited number of calls, anywhere from 30 minutes to as long as needed at a time, and ask questions on reducing security gaps, preparing for renewals, for preparing for security reviews, how to navigate the platform, what do risk insight means, those spotlights and insights that we've talked about, and get hands-on mitigation help. I could be using a technology I don't really understand. If I don't know how to update it, instead of banging my head across the hole and I'm a Cowbell policyholder, I'm just going to call Cowbell, and then somebody will get on the phone and help me out. We support recovery following an incident. Any risk questions at the end of the day. All questions, no call limit. And that's a team that is extremely useful, extremely experienced, and free of charge for any Cowbell policyholder.
Wow.
You know,
And
Matthew, that's
That's
a great list of services and offerings that you give to our members, and I appreciate you going through them. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Let's say that one of our members has had an incident. From your perspective, what are some of the most common mistakes organizations make that can make a cyber incident much more costly?
That's a great question. At the end of the day, it all starts before the incident. And one of the very first thing any business can do is have an incident response plan. If something happened, if there is an incident, what can we do? Incident response plans can be very simple. They can be very sophisticated, but whatever the level of complexity, they should be known to all staff members, and they should be rehearsed. If something happens to the business and our network goes down, how do we get back to business as quickly as possible? How do we get back to operations as quickly as possible? How do we get back to offering services to constituents and taxpayers as quickly as possible? An incident response plan will be great because it will also ensure that there's no chaos, especially if it's rehearsed, and it impacts on the cyber side, not necessarily the fact that a cyber incident happened, but how quickly we can get back to running services. In most cases, a good IRP start with having a thorough understanding of inventory of what critical systems are within a municipality or school or any network possible. Often we see a lack of understanding of what are all the systems, and if all the systems are accounted or not accounted, then it becomes hard to understand what's the critical systems that businesses must be aware of and know how to get back on track. What's a non-critical system that maybe can wait a few days or a few hours in case something goes wrong. Having good backup, immutable as possible, that needs to be tested on a specific schedule also makes a great difference, especially in cases where a ransomware event happens or when data is compromised in any way. Having backup increasingly is seen as one way to avoid not being able to operate. And then finally, this one goes down to the very core cyber or any information sharing in general, making sure that only the right people have access to the information they need to do the job. If somebody doesn't need access to a system, they should not have access to that system. It's not necessarily that we don't trust them, but it only means less people having access to systems restricts a actor's ability to compromise that system. So it's not about trust per se, it's about closing the number of open doors.
Yeah, that's a great list of items. I appreciate you going through that. Oftentimes Ryan and I repeat those same things to our members, so it's good to hear that you have the similar list.
But it's different when it's coming from somebody else now, right?
Well,
because everybody's probably heard us say those same things over and over. If
it works, it works, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, so while we do have access to your expertise, I wanted to ask, when you look at successful organizations that reduce their claims over time, what do they do consistently well, and regardless of their size or their budget?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I could almost answer it as a follow-up to what was just discussed.
Yeah.
So what we see having the most effective, impactful results is when municipalities or organizations understand their asset visibility. They understand what systems are in use, and they understand who the ownership is. The worst thing we can have in the network is great technology that should not be in the system and nobody knows how it got there. That is an open backdoor into disasters. The organizations we do that do very well are those that have clear asset visibility, clear ownership, So they know what's in the network, and somebody's job is to keep those assets up to date. And that also works especially well because of what we talked earlier on in the call, which is because we know that actors don't use very specifically built attack chains, they're going to go after what's been proven to cause damage at a quick cost. And often that is exploiting unpatched, not up to date, old systems. And knowing what's on the networks helps mitigate that. Having people responsible for keeping the system up to date also closes these doors. So basically, when organizations know what assets they have, who owns them, and force good security hygiene, we'll have MFA, multiple factor authentication, that will help with phishing cases, and then have patching and logging, which decreases the surface attack. Those policyholders, those municipalities and service providers put themselves in the best possible position. It doesn't mean they're not going to be attacked, but they are in a good defensive posture.
Yeah. So as sophisticated as the threat actors are, they're still looking for low-hanging fruit, right? They're trying to work smarter, not harder. Just like
it's all about return on investment.
Yeah.
The most damage they can do with as little investment as they can do is how they're trying to win.
Yeah. So what you're saying, it so closely aligns with Mike and mine, our messaging that we have to our members when we do risk assessments. One of the initial things that is uncovered is the lack of inventory, the lack of visibility into the entity's own environment. So what I'm taking from that, and we kind of need to wrap up, but what I'm taking from that is you're saying that your primary focus as an entity should be visibility, inventory, training your employees, patching your systems. Is that accurate, or am I missing something there?
Absolutely. It all comes down to being proactive.
Yeah.
Let's be proactive. Let's work together with the cyber team at Cowbell, with the TML security risk pool team, with the municipalities, and let's work together on closing as many doors as possible before the attackers come forward and try to bring down the house. At the end of the day, especially in today's cyber threat landscape, the probability of being attacked is extremely high. It's up to us to make it hard on the attackers. It's up to us to close the doors. We know they're going to try, so we got to get the defenses up.
Yeah, we always like to say that we're all fighting the same battle, right? But from our perspective, we have to be right 100% of the time. Threat actor only has to be right once. So the odds are definitely in their favor. So we need to be as proactive as possible to take those steps, and you laid them out perfectly. For our members to be as protected against a possible event, but not only protected, prepared for what we see as almost the inevitable. You are going to be targeted. There is going to be an attack. Now, how successful that is depends on how successful you've been in your preparation. Absolutely. So I think that's a great message to leave today. I think what you and your team bring to the table alongside of what we do here at the Risk Pool so closely aligns with what we're trying to do for our members, and that's have them be as protected and prepared as possible. So we are so grateful to have not only your expertise available today on the podcast, but your expertise available for our members going forward. So how can our members engage with you and your team? What's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. Thank you. So we have a centralized email, crs@cowbellcyber.ai. And any question request can be sent to that email. And we've had a whole team getting ready, and they'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. So we'll flash that email, of course, on the bottom of the screen. It'll also be in the notes on our YouTube version of this podcast. Again, if you like the content, if you want to see additional topics covered, please respond to us. Our email is cybersquad@tmlirp.org. That'll go to me and Mike and our team. We'll be happy to respond. We'll be happy to get you connected with Cowbell and Matthieu's team. Again, please like and subscribe to our podcast so you can be notified when we release new content. We're super excited to be partnered with Cowbell. we're looking forward to continue to engage with our members to help them, like I said, be more protected and more prepared for a possible event that could happen. Last minute things. Anybody else have anything to add before we kind of wrap it up?
I just want to piggyback on what you said, Ryan. Matthieu, we're excited about the partnership with Cowbell and all the services you bring for our members. And we want to make sure that we continue to evangelize those things that can help them not only avoid these cyber incidents, but when they do have a cyber incident, to get the best response and to take advantage of the services you guys offer them in those incidents. So thank you for coming on the podcast and helping us understand more.
Of course, we're so happy to be working with you guys. Welcoming any questions. We have a lot of services. Please send us questions, contact us, let us know what your needs are, and we'll be happy to help.
Awesome. Well said. Thank you so much. The last thing I will mention, that if you need to get access to the Cowbell platform, if you haven't already done so, please reach out to me. We will make sure that we get that invitation resent to you so you can get access to that, so you can view all of the things that Matthieu mentioned. And again, thank you for joining us again, and we will see you next time on our next episode of Building Cybersafe Communities. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks.